Let's start off with a simple question. What is Doom? I have played every Doom game, even the ones back from '93. I've put way too many hours across all of them. Each of them has had a special place in my heart, the old ones being, to me, a mastery of old technology. The pace that the game goes in, and the secrets, the world building, all of the enemies. The old Doom games are still fun. Doom 3 is pretty bad, I won't lie. It's a Half-Life clone with horror aspects, and none of it works. So basically, we have another black sheep of the Doom family, it being the Dark Ages. It kind of breaks away from the formula of most Doom games, and this has left me very torn as I'm trying to figure out what kind of game this is. If they removed everything Doom related to this game and then released it as its own thing, just changing all the characters and literally everything, like everything of Doom, replace the text, replace the characters, replace the world, and this game would be just a lot better knowing it's not a Doom game. So let's go over what makes a Doom game. What is Doom? In my eyes, having played all of them, and 3 and the Dark Ages being the only outliers, I can kind of form a guess as to what the formula is, but I can for sure tell you what I enjoy about Doom and pretty much every Doom game. The two biggest things that make me almost hurt inside playing a Doom game, and it being this one, is the movement and combat. The movement in the Dark Ages is not as good or fluent as Eternal or 2016, or even the ones that came out a long ass time ago. They made this game centered around you being a tank. You are a heavy, huge, badass guy with guns out of the wazoo. The problem is that the slow approach also forces the combat to be slow. So not only is exploration and finding puzzle mechanics or just doing anything that revolves walking is torturous because of this slow movement. If you're like me and you want to 100% the game, or at least just collect most of the shit in each level, good luck. Because walking this much in a Doom game is terrible. Not only do they give you this slow speed, but they also removed dash from Eternal, so you can't dash back and forth. That's too fast of combat for this game. It would quite literally break it because of how slow the combat is. However, they try to fix this by giving you a sprint. It doesn't really work well. It makes you move a little bit faster, but then when you go to sprint jump, of course it makes you higher and go farther. But in combat, this can kind of ruin your flow if you have auto sprint turned on, like I do, because I hate pushing the sprint button when I want to go forward. In fact, they have an auto sprint feature in the old Doom games, Doom 1 and 2. I enable this by default every single time, but you will have to watch out for it when you're fighting. Just keep it in the back of your head and you'll get used to it. It's not a big deal. They've also removed the ability to double jump, which isn't a huge deal, especially for this game, but it is less movement, and I do not like less movement. With that being said, the combat is definitely slower. Most of your tools that you're able to have in the game to fight the demons centers around AoE damage. And even the arenas, quote-unquote arenas that you fight in, there's a lot of demons with shields and such that once you break one of their shields, it breaks the whole line's defense, and they all go down. So there's just a lot of little pieces on the board you can quickly get rid of, while there's one big chess piece, the king, and then you have a few bishops and rooks and things of that nature to kind of push you down or distract you from the main objective. I honestly believe that they really tried to make the gameplay smart and intelligent, like making a chessboard and putting all these pieces in every arena that you go into. It doesn't seem like they're just throwing shit in there and like just saying how you deal with it. I think they really tried to create the sort of battlefield, and it really does work pretty much all the time. There's not a moment where I'm bored with the game. There's just too many moments where I'll be playing and I forget that I'm playing Doom. I actually just trick myself into thinking that I'm not playing Doom subconsciously, and then I'll snap back to reality and be like, oh right, this is the new Doom game. And it's mostly because of the slow combat, the slow movement, and the drastic change to the weapons and how they're supposed to be dealt with. So this long rant isn't saying that this game is bad in any way, although there are a few huge problems I have with it that they cannot fix, otherwise it'd be an entirely different game. It's just not a new Doom game. And I felt like I got baited with the cinematic trailers and releases because it looks super cool, the setting is super cool, the graphics are obviously top notch, and I love this setting. I love the more grounded in 2016 like they made this new Doom game. But the build up from 2016 to Eternal was that everything was ramped. I mean, the movement, the gunplay, the combat, the level design, everything seems like it was built upon farther than 2016. It's kind of hard to say. It's like they took 2016 and all of its mechanics and then put it into overdrive. And then I wish that it had the 2016 aesthetics, but I do acknowledge that Doom Eternal does still look very nice. So coming from that high octane that I so love from Eternal, and is why I put so many hours into it, I was disappointed when seeing the gameplay trailers and you're just walking and basically only targeting one person. And of course, when I finally played it, my horrors, as you could say, came true, and it isn't the same experience as anything seen in Doom. Quite honestly, this is a totally new approach. They've made this quite literally like it's a completely different game but slap Doom onto it, which I'm not particularly against. If they made a Halo Doom game, that would be so awesome because they have both IPs at this point. They could totally do it. But what I'm trying to get at with this long unorganized dialogue at the beginning of this video is that I wish I had played another Doom game. And this not being a Doom game hurt me a little bit as I was playing the game, like literally throughout the entire game. And as cringe and man-child as that may seem, it's like the same feeling you get when you see Disney acquire your favorite IP and then they just totally ruin it. All of that out of the way, do not think that this is a new Doom game. Think of this as Elden Ring with guns, because the first thing I will say before we get into the gameplay is that guns are no longer a priority. Your whole arsenal is equally important, and this can be very cool or a detriment to video game design. So getting into the gameplay, you have your everyday Doom enemies. You have the Imp, you have the fat guy with 2 guns, you've got Hell Knights, you've got Cyber Demons, and then you have some that are inspired from the Eternal DLC, the spinning guys. Those make a return, but they actually provide more gameplay than when they were in Eternal. Really, the only new enemies are either really big and tough or medium and super fast. I'm not going to say too much about the enemies, considering that I don't really want to spoil too much, even though talking about enemies isn't really spoiling, but enemies aren't too much of a focus in a Doom game because I already know that every Doom game has excellent enemy variety. I will say that they've made this new thing where medium demons and upward can spawn with armor, and there's specific guns you need to use against armor to be more effective than others. Really, I only have one problem with the enemies, and it's another thing that reminds me it's not Doom, and it's the Stalker Imps. You basically have 2 imps, and one of them is the one that charges up and then spins at you and can do whatever. And then you have the normal imp, but they're called like stalker imps. And they basically just stand around, walk up to you, shoot a few projectiles, or can charge up at you. But the thing that makes me realize it's not a Doom game is that they're a little more tanky than the other Doom games. Like, you can't just run up to them, shotgun them, run away. Like in the other Doom games, they're more of a horde of them, and they would climb everywhere. They throw fireballs at you. They'd even charge up a really big one to do massive damage if you're not paying attention. But in this game, it seems like they're more soldiers, and the actual soldiers with the shields and guns, there's way more of them, and like I said before, you can just take them all out with one of your weapons. So for the most part, they're basically like every other demon in Doom Eternal, but with the flip of the Dark Ages. Now I'm ready to actually talk about the biggest change, and it's the shield. The shield can do a plethora of things to the point where I actually think how in previous games the guns were the priority. I think the shield is the priority in this game. So as we're transitioning from enemies to the guns themselves and what each of them do, you have to understand that in the combat, parrying is a must. I don't care what accessibility settings you use, I don't care what difficulty you're on. If you're playing this game and you want to live and you want to beat it, you're going to have to parry. And the biggest reason why I do not consume most of the modern entertainment in the video game industry is because parrying in huge open world, like just ideologies, have infected so many video games to the point where I'm just tired of. And I don't even see that much value in pressing a button at the right time when something flashes green. It feels like I'm playing a game that's making fun of me because I don't know how to play. So when I dive into a video game like Doom, where you run and gun everything, all the demons, you kill them, you're a cool Christian guy or whatever, you just want to have guns, start blasting. And of course you need some intelligent arenas and enemies that can surround you. You need some type of play style that pushes you to actually think. But having things light up green and pollute my screen with effects, trying to push the right mouse button at the exact time I'm supposed to, is not only frustrating, but it's also just boring. When you do parry, your shield can actually activate different abilities, like you can have a shoulder mounted turret that just shoots while you're trying to parry. There's also one that just spawns a bunch of swords that seek out other demons around. So it's pretty obvious that parrying is a must in this game, and I think the only reason why I've pushed myself to beat it and I want to actually achieve Ultra Nightmare like I have in Eternal is because it's a Doom game, without also being a Doom game. So in this game, you have different weapon categories, much like you had in previous games where you have multiple weapons using the same ammo. However, because quick swapping and stuff like that isn't viable in this game because of the slow combat, there's not a keybind for each individual gun, there's only a keybind for each weapon category. So speed running through the weapon categories, you have the shotguns, which is the simple shotgun and the super shotgun. The simple shotgun shoots one shell at a time in a small spread, but you can upgrade it to give you armor by making other demons on fire. And then the super shotgun, of course, is just a massive shotgun that blows anything away. Anything that's in front of you is just gone. Next on the weapon category is personally my favorite design-wise, and it's the skull ammo. You get two weapons, the shredder and pulverizer. And basically the only difference between the two is that one has a fixed spread that is much tighter than the other, just in general. But what they do is they crush up skulls and shoot all the fragments just everywhere. Like the super wide one covers in a massive FOV. After that are the rail spike ammo things, and you have the shredder and impaler. The shredder acts more of like the assault weapon from Eternal that basically just a full auto shoots short range spikes at people. And then you have the impaler, which is the sniper rifle of the game. Both of these guns kind of excel at flesh and mostly headshot damage. Then you have the plasma ammo category, which has the accelerator and cycler. The only difference between the two that I found was that the cycler has two barrels, so it's twice the fun. The weapon upgrades that they have are genuinely fun because it makes enemies shock, which makes them take more damage from you, and then you can further increase that by making the status effect apply to demons around the one that you're shooting at. The only time I personally ever use this is when I see an enemy with the plasma shield, because in the games you can use plasma to blow up plasma shield, and even then I still sometimes resort to my shield because there's an upgrade that lets you throw a shield at a plasma shield and then it bounces around other demons, so I usually don't even use the plasma guns. Last up on our basic weapon category is the rockets, and you have the grenade launcher and rocket launcher. I personally think both of these are a little OP because with the rocket launcher, if you parry in time, you have a window where you can use splash damage to heal you, and most of these enemies, especially the big ones, you usually can't attack them effectively unless you're up close, and when you're up close, they will attack you with parryable attacks so often. So the reason why the rocket launcher launcher was probably, I think, my second gun I got the gold skin for, which is to complete all the challenges for it, is because you can go up to these massive demons, parry, and spam the rockets. Even though they're right in front of you, it'll just heal you, and then any damage you take from not parrying is just going to be out healed by the constant rockets. Then with the grenade launcher, you can throw your shield into a demon to cause it to be stunned, and then if you constantly shoot your grenades, it'll just spawn clusters. With all the upgrades, it's just cluster heaven, and you can just have this massive AoE weapon that's just kills everything. There are 2 power weapons in the game that do not use the same ammo, but they are acquired differently than every other gun in the game. The chain shot is this rifle that has the, I don't know if they're barrel covers or what, but they can open and close to keep the ball that's inside the gun in and out, and the ball itself is chain linked up to the gun. You can charge up a shot and shoot it at armored enemies for massive armor damage. The weapon upgrades for this thing are kind of insane, I'm not gonna lie. The 3 guns that I got gold in my first playthrough was the super shotgun, rocket launcher, and this chain shot. That's how good it is. Then next up is my personally most controversial weapon, the BFC. It unfortunately does not stand for big fucking crossbow. It stands for ballistic force crossbow. And I at first thought it would not be as good as Eternal, because in Eternal you can shoot the BFG and it has this orb that slowly travels across the map and leeches onto basically any demon it can find. It has a huge radius and it'll instantly kill any demon it leeches onto. The crossbow is a single shot projectile that instantly blows up on contact. However, because of how the enemies are gathered onto the battlefield, like they're not just constantly spawning over and over again like in Eternal, the main demons. It's mostly you have stages in an arena, and each stage will spawn set demons, although of course fodder demons like usual forever spawn, but you don't use that gun for that scenario. So I really think it's on par, considering it can actually clear out most if not all of a stage of an arena. There was a time, however, I tried to use it with a boss and it seemed like it didn't do anything at all. I don't know if the game bugged. This game usually doesn't bug at all, which we will get into later, but that made me think in my mind that it's completely useless against bosses, so I usually only used it against very anxious combat arenas with lots of demons. The last thing I can say about the weapons is there are melee weapons, which is new for Doom games. Their upgrade paths usually separate themselves between each other, but in my playthrough I just kind of figured it as the 3 melee weapons have less charge and more recharge time between each one. And because I love shooting more than I love melee, I just used the 3rd melee weapon and it's very good. Now we can actually get into currency. I absolutely hate this idea, the fact that I have to I love exploring, I love finding the secrets, but I don't want to be forced to have to walk everywhere to get all the gold, you know, to upgrade weapons, because that's what it takes. Which just goes back to me hating how slow you move in this game compared to other Doom games. And it also doesn't help that the levels, if you're playing as the Slayer, they're super open. Like, they're way more open than what they used to. But back on currency, you have 3 currencies. You have gold, rubies, and wraith stones. The only difference between them is the amount of effort to gather them. Like gold you can just find laying around. Rubies and wraith stones you have to solve a puzzle to find, but basically everything has a level to upgrade, so most things will cost gold, but as soon as you want to get the better stuff you'll have to use rubies and then eventually wraith stones. I loved how it was back in Eternal in 2016 where it rewarded you for fighting, and it does the same thing in this game where it gives you quests to do for each level, like shoot 50 enemies with a rocket launcher or some stupid shit. They're better than what I'm explaining, but it seems like you have to actually walk around and explore the map to progress your arsenal, and I'm not even sure if you can upgrade everything in the game in one save slot. I think I was missing a handful of wraith stones by the time I finished my first playthrough, whereas in Eternal you could easily upgrade everything and have points left over. And all of these annoyances again are pushed through because I love Doom so much. And part of my love for Doom is the music. I was actually a metal hater before I played Doom 2016, and then playing Doom 2016 and the immersive music while you're fighting got me into the genre, and now I'm a huge like metalhead or whatever. So the music also helped me just walk and enjoy the scenery. Another really badass thing that they've done is made levels where you play as a huge mech, and then in other levels you get to ride on a dragon and get to do cool stuff. I don't think these cool gimmick levels have any replay value, especially because in some of them like there's no secrets for the mech suits. It's mostly just fighting, which is very cool cinematically and gameplay wise, but there's nothing to refresh the experience. So I hope there's a way you can just skip the levels or something in the future. This is getting a bit long, so I'm gonna try to quick fire the performance part. I played on high to ultra settings with DLSS on balanced, and in the open world while I was just exploring or whatever, I was getting about 80 to 90 FPS. And then in combat, when things are getting really hectic, I saw it dip down to about 70. And then with bugs, I experienced a couple of things. This first one, I could see it being replicated in Eternal somehow if it had a shield, because it's like an id Tech engine kind of bug. But I was focusing on a thing you can smash with a shield, and it was because it was like a tree and it had roots. It wasn't a flat surface. The lock-on was trying to push me down or something into the ground. This is purely cosmetic because you can just kind of walk back, and it's kind of hard to replicate because you have to be pretty much hugging the tree. So it's not like a major thing. I just thought it was funny. One thing that was more game-breaking, but I fixed it by reloading. But basically I got off the dragon, and you have to throw your shield at something, but I like didn't have a shield, and I couldn't get it back any other way. I tried going in and out of the UI. I also tried just shooting my gun or even swapping to another gun, and that was hard to do. There is one thing that actually annoys me pretty much every time I play, and it's when the map, when you try to open it, it remembers your last input for some reason. You can be walking, open the map, and the map will go forward on its own. You can be in a menu and then click into the map at the top, and then it will think you're trying to move it because it remembers you pushing mouse down when you go into the menu. So hopefully they just hotfix that, because it annoys me, but it's not actually game breaking. Finally, I can talk about the story. I won't provide any spoilers, so don't worry about that. I just want to say that the story of Doom, especially recently, has been just a story of rule of cool, as they say. Kind of like John Wick, where it makes sense because it's cool, so you don't have to put too much thought into it. This game puts that ideology and ramps it up to the highest. And like the story is fine, or whatever. It's getting way too many cutscenes. I wish they keep just pulling it back like how it is in Eternal, especially 2016. And there is like a few level stretches where it just loads in and out without any cutscenes. And also the map load time is super short. Like it's just pretty much instant. You can't say a single sentence before it loads. Basically the whole story is whatever, but there are super badass shots like Halo 2, Master Chief putting the bomb in the Covenant ship kind of moment. That's like almost in every cutscene. In the dialogue and stuff, they pushed it back as much as they could, I could tell, so I appreciate that. But if they had just fewer cutscenes, maybe more codexes, or just codexes that have more material in them, I think that would be a tremendously better idea, because in my eyes, Doom is about the gameplay. It's about being Doom to hell. In conclusion, this is just a unorganized, garbled up mess of me wanting a new Doom game. I feel like I didn't get one, but the game that I did get is still pretty fun. I still want to complete everything. I still want to get all the achievements, which I'm close to doing, and I'm going to enjoy this forever, listen to the music forever. Do I think you should buy this? Absolutely. The $70 is way worth it. I may be biased because I just love Doom things, but genuinely, games have not been very fun recently, but this is very, very fun. Please play it.